Welcome to Joy Recovery Radio, the place where couples like you can discover healing and hope after sexual infidelity and betrayal trauma. We're here to share insights, strategies, and real-life stories that support both sides of the recovery journey. We're passionate about getting this message of hope and healing to as many couples as possible. The best way you can help us do that is by engaging with our podcast. Please take a moment to follow us on Apple Podcasts and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Liking our episodes and leaving a 5-star review also makes a huge difference, helping others find our community when they need it most. Let's dive into today's episode.
Hello and welcome back to Joy Recovery Radio. Today we're diving into a topic that is deeply intertwined with sex addiction, and that is deception. Specifically, we're going to explore what's happening in our brains when we lie, and how does it impact our brains when we lie thousands of times about the same thing. Most importantly, we're going to end with what can we do to rewire those patterns for honesty and integrity. I know the idea of talking about lying can feel a bit heavy and perhaps moralistic or judgmental, but I don't want to approach it from that angle today. I would like to look at it by putting aside judgment for a moment, and instead, let's just look at the science. What's happening neurologically when we lie? In other words, we're going to explore the how behind deception, not just the why. And this will hopefully give us a deeper understanding, both as a sex addict or as a betrayed partner, what it means when we do engage in deception. How can we have a roadmap for changing that and becoming more honest? Let's start with the basics. What's actually happening in our brains when we're being deceptive? Think of your brain as a highly sophisticated command center. When you are telling the truth about something, it's a pretty simple, straightforward process. Here's what happens, just two things. You access your memory, and then you report it. Bam, you told the truth. It hardly takes any effort or cognitive load to do that. But when you lie, and we're just talking about one lie, it is a complex interplay of various different regions of the brain. And your brain now has to work overtime to suppress the truth, to create a false story, and then remember that story so that they can stick to it. It's a very heavy lift for the mind. So there are three main key players involved with deception in our brain. And I'm going to use some simple terms and analogies to explain those three parts, those three players. First, we have the prefrontal cortex, which is the part of the brain right behind the forehead. We're going to call this player the CEO. The CEO is responsible for all your high-level cognitive functions, sometimes called executive functions. When you tell one lie, your CEO is working overtime, juggling multiple plates at the same time. Number one, he has to suppress the truth. Think of it as trying to hold a beach ball underwater. It takes constant effort, constant monitoring, and if you let your guard down, it can pop up. So he is suppressing that beach ball of truth. At the same time as the CEO is suppressing the truth, he is also using his creativity to craft and invent a false narrative. And the false narrative has to be believable. It has to be good. Not only is he suppressing the truth and crafting this untruth, he is also having to be sure and remember that story. And so he has to deposit it in his memory. And he has to engage some future thinking as well, because he has to anticipate what might be the follow-up questions from the betrayed partner. And how do I make sure there's no inconsistencies in my story? So the CEO, not only does he have all of these various things going on at the same time, but the CEO is also involved in impulse control, which is critical because lying is one of those impulses. The CEO also plays a role in our working memory and in our future planning, which is why liars are often trying to think several steps ahead when they engage in deception. Then we have the second player, the amygdala. This is what we're going to call the alarm system of the brain, or the fear center. This is where your survival response resides, the three F's of survival: fight, flight, or freeze. The very first time you tell a lie about a specific topic, especially if you're not used to doing it, your amygdala fires up and sounds a very loud alarm. Your amygdala will begin to generate inside of you feelings of guilt, anxiety, and fear. It's as if your amygdala is telling your CEO, what are you doing? Don't tell this lie. We're going to get caught. Don't do this. The amygdala is responsible for processing our fear and our anxiety, and now we have this survival response. So that initial feeling of discomfort that you experience when you tell one lie, that's the amygdala. Sometimes we may even call it our conscious. Finally, we're going to look at the third player, and that is the nucleus accumbens. We're going to call this the brain's reward system. When a sex addict lies and he gets away with it, that's the key part. When he gets away with the lie or achieves the desired outcome through deception, this area of the brain releases dopamine. And that dopamine hit creates a temporary feeling of reward. It's like the reward center gives the CEO a high five saying, hey, we got away with it. There's this little positive nudge in your brain when you lie and you don't get caught. Unfortunately, that reinforces the dishonest behavior, and it makes it more likely to repeat that lie next time you have the opportunity that will lead to the same reward, even if you're being dishonest. So let's connect this to sex addiction. Deception and secrecy, those are not just symptoms of sex addiction. They are often the engine that drives our acting out behavior. The lying is what allows the addict to continue to act out in the first place. The lying is what keeps the secret sexual basement hidden from our loved ones. And the brain's reward system plays a huge role here. Here's what's happening. It's like a 1-2 punch of dopamine. The acting out behavior itself, going through those rituals and acting out, is a powerful activator of this reward system, releasing a flood of dopamine. The lying, to protect the acting out behavior, provides a secondary dopamine hit. So when you successfully get away with the lie to protect the acting out, your brain gets a double shot of dopamine and reinforces the behavior. So when we lie to our partner about where we were, or how much money we spent, or who were we talking to, or what were we doing on our phone or our computer, and we get away with that lie, it provides a feeling of relief, a temporary buzz or high. This is why I say lying can become the co-addiction of sex addiction. These are sisters. The lying becomes a pattern, the compulsive behavior coupled with the sexual compulsive behavior. It's a behavior your brain associates with a positive outcome because you either avoided some kind of negative consequence like getting in trouble or losing respect with others, or you're getting to continue the acting out behavior.
At joy-recovery.com, we offer personalized recovery coaching to help you move from pain to purpose. We also provide supportive groups where you can connect with others who truly understand. So, whether you're battling addiction, healing from betrayal, or rebuilding a brand new relationship, you're not alone. We can help. Go to joy-recovery.com today.
So, this brings us to what is called the downward spiral. This is when the sex addict not just tells one lie, but now he engages in a whole system of deception. And this can go on for months, years, or even decades. And when it's not just one lie, but chronic lying, long-term, we see a cascade of neurological effects with these players in the brain. First, let's take the CEO. Telling multiple lies over a long period of time is incredibly cognitively demanding the CEO. Your brain is constantly working to suppress the truth and create multiple false narratives. With this chronic overload, the CEO's ability to rationally weigh the consequences of his behavior, whether it's the acting out behavior or the lying behavior, is now compromised. The CEO is now handicapped when it comes to thinking long term. and has a very difficult time making sound decisions. The CEO is like a computer running too many programs at the same time, and his random access memory can't keep up with it. When a computer or the CEO begins to become overwhelmed like this, there's three possible outcomes. Number one, the computer slows down. Number two, it begins to make errors. Or number three, it eventually crashes. All of this is going on with the CEO, but let's not forget one more thing that is now compromised: impulse control. It takes a hit. It's almost as if the, quote, brakes of the brain are now gone. Second, another effect of long-term dishonesty is that we become desensitized to the lying. This is also known as the slippery slope. Research suggests that the more we lie about the same thing, the less our amygdala, our alarm system, reacts to it. So that initial discomfort and guilt and anxiety and fear that we felt when we first told a lie, it starts to fade. Telling the first lie can evoke a very strong negative emotional response inside of us. But with repeated exposure to lying, this response becomes habituated, or the amygdala becomes numb. This is probably one of the most alarming aspects of what happens to the amygdala when we continue to lie for months, years, or decades. Our amygdala pivots. He does a 180. He used to see deception as the threat to warn us about. Now it's completely opposite. We've lied so much that he now sees truth-telling as the threat. And anytime we're considering telling the truth, that's when he sets off his loudest alarm and warns us. All of this works together to create a very strong neural pathway of deception. It makes it easier. It makes it smoother. It makes it more efficient to continue to lie. It's like we've created a rut in the brain. And every time we're faced a decision between truth-telling and deception, we tend to fall into that rut and tell another lie. Finally, we have what's called amygdala hyperactivity or amygdala dysregulation. After so many lies for such a long period of time, the amygdala is in constant fear of exposure. There's this internal conflict inside of us that just eats away at our soul. We know that we're sitting on a secret, and the effort to maintain that lie keeps the amygdala on high alert 24/7. This leads to a state of chronic systemic stress, where your body is now continually pumping stress hormones like cortisol. And this prolonged amygdala activation, it now makes the sex addict have a more difficult time regulating his emotions effectively. It leads to high levels of anxiety, irritability, and defensiveness. We sex addicts become more reactive and less empathic. This all sounds grim, doesn't it? Aren't you glad you tuned in today? Well, let's get to the good news. And there is hope. And the most hopeful part of this entire discussion, when we look at the science and what's happening in the brain, is that our Creator also made our brains with the ability for what scientists call neuroplasticity. What that simply means is this: our brain, I don't care how old you are, I don't care how long you've been engaging in lying, it can change. It can adapt. It can form new connections throughout our lifespan. It turns out an old dog can learn new tricks. You are not stuck with this pattern. Now, it is going to take conscious effort. If you want to build new neural pathways, it takes two things: intention and repetition, but it can be done. With effort, with intention and repetition, you can create new, healthier neural pathways. They can be strengthened. They can become the new habit. They can become the new default. And the old deceptive pathway can be weakened and diminished. It's like rerouting traffic patterns in the brain. This is the potential we have for change. So how can we use this understanding of what's happening inside of our brain to actually make a change? How can we utilize these players in our brain? to rewire our brain and make it easier to engage in truth telling. Are you caught in a cycle of deception? Do you find yourself now lying out of habit, even though you're no longer acting out? Do you find yourself continuing to lie about things that have nothing to do with a secret sexual basement? This is why I often say lying is the last thing to change for a person in recovery. For most of us find that long after we stop acting out, the compulsion to lie continues. What can we do about it? How do we break out of the cycle of deception? How do we overcome this co-addiction? This is where there's hope. Let me give you 7 tangible steps to start today to create that new neural pathway and to rewire your brain for integrity and honesty. Number 1, it has to begin with a commitment, a solid commitment to radical honesty. It means that you are now committing to tell the truth no matter what. There's going to be consequences. Your brain is not your friend. Initially, your amygdala is going to scream at you, whatever you do, don't tell the truth. So this is about retraining your brain. Each time you engage in truth-telling, you are strengthening that new neural pathway, and it supports future honesty and future integrity. You are literally building a new, clear path in the brain. Initially, it's going to be very hard. You're going to have a lot of anxiety every time you try to tell the truth. But over time, your brain is going to learn that honesty is the new safest option, and that deception is the risky behavior. Number 2, confess truth often. You need a lot of repetitions when it comes to truth-telling. Your addiction thrives in secrecy. When you bring deception into the light through trusted relationships, you're getting your reps in. I encourage you to not only engage in confessing any kind of truth to your partner, but also have accountability partners and healthy brothers in recovery that you can call and get those healthy repetitions with them too. Come clean with your partner. Come clean with 2 or 3 brothers every time there's any kind of opportunity for deception. This reduces the cognitive load of the CEO. You're no longer expending a lot of mental energy maintaining all these lies. And this frees up your CEO to start making healthier decisions and to start reapplying brakes to the impulses in your life. Number 3, identify the payoffs that you thought you had with your deception. For sex addicts like us, deception serves a purpose. It usually has 2 purposes. It's either image management or damage control, or both. And it was perpetuated by a habit. It helped us avoid consequences, or it helped us continue to act out, or it helped us protect our image. Understanding what those temporary rewards were for us is critical, because once you identify them, you can begin to explore healthier ways to meet those underlying needs, or to cope with the discomfort that deception was masking for you. Number 4, practice mindfulness. Many deceptive behaviors feel automatic. It feels like we're lying without even thinking about it. Developing mindfulness helps you pause before acting on an impulse. Let me give you 2 tips when it comes to practicing mindfulness and stopping the habit of lying. Number 1, practice what's called a sacred pause. The sacred pause is waiting 7 seconds before you answer a question. Now, it's important that you talk to your partner about this practice and that she feels safe with you doing it, because that 7-second pause can trigger her into thinking that you're coming up with a lie, because that's what you used to do. But if you sit down and talk to your partner and tell her, I want to engage in truth-telling. I want to practice radical honesty. I don't want to lie or deceive you anymore. And to help me stop that habit, which feels so automatic, would you remind me? Would you partner with me? Could we be a team and together fight against the shared enemy of deception? And would you remind me when you ask a question to wait 7 seconds? That 7-second sacred pause is often the difference between reactivity and a response, between deception and truth-telling. So it's becoming more aware of the internal signals inside of you, that anxiety you feel, the fear you experience, the impulse to hide. You're creating a small window of opportunity to choose a different path with that sacred pause. Second tip is, if your partner's willing, lying initially when you're trying to reverse and rewire your brain. It can feel so automatic, and you catch yourself later realizing that you told a lie. If your partner is willing to agree, you can have a 24-hour rule. What that simply means is this. You have a 24-hour grace period to come clean if you realized you told a lie. Now, not all partners are ready for this, and it may not be a tool that you can implement in your coupleship. But many men who are trying to forge a new path of integrity find that 24-hour rule to be helpful as they rewire the brain. Number 5, embrace the discomfort. Early in the process of stopping the addiction to lying, the discomfort will be very high for you. Your amygdala is going to be screaming. It is upset that you're now trying to tell the truth. And it's vital to help yourself understand that this discomfort is temporary. In fact, this discomfort is a sign of making progress. It's not failure. It's your brain adjusting. It's forming new, healthier neural pathways. Your honesty muscle is getting stronger. Number 6, consider maintenance polygraphs. The reason I find maintenance polygraphs to be helpful is because it's the threat of sitting in that chair that finally breaks us out of the addiction to lying. Knowing that we're not going to be able to fool the polygrapher can be a jump start to truth-telling and forging that new neural pathway. Number 7, make dopamine work for you. Hearing what happens with the dopamine release every time we lie, we can be tempted to demonize dopamine, but let's not do that. The truth is, dopamine is not inherently good or evil. Dopamine is a fundamental part of what makes us human. So think about it this way. When you eat a really good meal, you have a dopamine release. When you spend time with people that you love, you have a dopamine release. When you hold a baby, you have a dopamine release. When you get a really good night's sleep, you have a dopamine release. Our brain releases dopamine around a lot of things. Some of those things are positive and healthy. Dopamine is not just about addiction, and it's not just about destructive behavior. Dopamine is also the chemical that gives you that yes feeling when you finally solve a puzzle, or the satisfaction you feel when you finish a difficult project at work. This is why some scientists call dopamine not the pleasure chemical, but the pursuit chemical. Dopamine isn't just about the end goal. Dopamine is also the driver that drives us to seek out the reward in the first place. Dopamine is the motivation to learn a new skill. Dopamine is the energy to go for a run today. Dopamine is the driver behind truth-telling. Dopamine is the driver behind developing a healthy relationship with your partner. The reward system is simply the system that says, hey, what I just did felt good. Let's reinforce that. Let's do that again. Let's have some dopamine. Dopamine is actually an essential tool for survival, and it's essential for growth. So let's make dopamine work for us. Instead of demonizing dopamine, let's understand how to work with it. We can consciously choose to engage in truth-telling and then experience that feel-good feeling of dopamine in a healthy, sustainable way. I want to leave you with this final message of hope. Your brain is incredibly adaptable and resilient. This concept of neuroplasticity means that change is always possible. I don't care how old you are or how long you've been lying. If you're struggling with a compulsion to lie, understand that is not a fixed character defect. You're not stuck. You are simply engaging in a deeply ingrained neurological pattern that was reinforced by lots of repetitions that can be unlearned and replaced with healthier patterns. It takes conscious effort. It takes patience. It takes a lot of repetitions. But the potential for a life aligned with integrity and truth-telling is absolutely possible for you. You can reroute those brain pathways. Thanks for joining me today. Until next time, keep taking those courageous steps towards a life of honesty and integrity. You're worth it. Your partner's worth it. Your coupleship is worth it. Your future is worth it. Choose joy.
That wraps up another episode of Joy Recovery Radio. We hope our conversation today brought you clarity, comfort, or a new perspective on your journey. Remember, healing is possible, and you don't have to walk this path alone. To learn more about how we can support you, visit us at joy-recovery.com. There, you'll find information about our individual and couples coaching practice designed to provide tailored support for both addicts and betrayed partners. You can also explore our various online groups, offering safe and confidential spaces for connection, shared experience, and growth. Thank you for joining us today. Until next time, choose joy.